y'all. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute. I hope that you are doing well. I'm doing good. I'm just back here, I guess, engineering it a little bit, but it's all fun. It's all fun. But yes, we are here, as you can see for the title, and we are talking about Vanderpump Rules. Of course, it's pretty much the show that is being heard all around the world, even for many of those who have probably never watched the show before. Now, I actually had did a what was it, a recap and review of the season finale. And so I kind of gave a nice little introduction for those of you who may be watching my live at the moment and may not have already known about Vanderpump Rules outside of the scandoval, right? And at the end of the day, this season 10 of Vanderpump Rules has really become the scandoval of it all. But it has been interesting because it's so many facets that have been attached to it. Now, some may say, why is this such a big deal? Why is this such an issue? People cheat on people all the time. And unfortunately, yeah, that is true. That happens quite often. And if you're one of those individuals who have not experienced that type of a phenomena, you are extremely lucky and you should count your blessings. But I think one of the things that has been so intriguing about this situation is that it unfolded with so much, I guess, so many gotcha moments. Like, for instance, we not only dealt with the betrayal of the what is it, sleeping around with your best friend. We're dealing with the dynamics of all the other friends as well. So the cheating aspect of it is unfortunately something that happens quite often. I don't think that just because it happens often, it is something that should just necessarily be accepted. It should just be okay. It's like the thing to do, because it's not. And there's a lot of consequences that can replicate itself because of that. Even some that might be unforeseen, whether you want to, believe that or not, or accept that or not. Karma is something. It comes for everyone, those who don't do anything as well as those who do. So yeah, this was quite the intriguing element. And yes, there has been so many other relationships that honestly, I had been watching Vanderpump Rules since the beginning, the inception, because basically it was a spinoff of not Vanderpump Rules, I'm sorry, a spinoff from Beverly Hills, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Lisa Vanderpump, right? So I've watched it from the very beginning. I've quite enjoyed it. It's just been one of those things that, I had a hard day at work, and I really just like to watch things sometimes that don't require a lot of brain activity. Just kind of just give me entertainment, because at the end of the day, I do a lot of brain activity at work. I don't want to have to do it at night too. So, you need those reset moments. And Vanderpump Rules is one of those shows that gave that reset moment. Now, there has been some people who obviously you may have already known that are no longer on the show, which is good for the few of them that are not. Very happy about that, and we move on. But the situation that lays itself in this cheating scandal is because, this couple was together for so long. And even though we know that, yes, in theory, sometimes, and most times in actuality, probably, how you get them is how you keep them, how you get them is how you get, what is it? How you lose them is how you get them, right? And I don't know, but there was maybe some kind of concept that was being thought of that this wouldn't happen to this particular couple. And it's so amazing now when I watch Vanderpump Rules, I look at it with a different, lens, capacity. And I don't know, Tom Sandoval, he's just not my guy. And not that he ever was in the first place. I don't think I paid much attention to him. But yeah, there's a lot going on there. And this scandal has really brought that on so much. And it's just been one of those things that it has been quite interesting to see the actual schematics of the human mind, if you will, and the word narcissist being thrown around so many times, right? So yeah, as you know, Vanderpump Rules, if you're watching, you may not know, but Vanderpump Rules reunion is broken up into 3 parts. The bottom line is, though, with this reunion, is that a lot of things probably could have been addressed maybe in 1 part, but because it's so much information and so much trickle down scenarios that have been provided, and so much emotion naturally from what is going on, whether it's contrived or legitimate, it's just it really does beg for more time on screen. And so, therefore, the three parts. And I'm here for each one of them, quite frankly. I'd rather watch this stuff on screen than seeing that in my real life. So, hey, it is what it is. But I just thought it was going to be quite an interesting reunion. And yeah, if you're watching it, if you've watched part one and part two, drop that down in the chat or in the comment section if you're watching the cap of this. And yeah, we're just going to go get into the part one. I wanted to kind of put part one and part two together because I had already had everything set up to do part one, but this has been a really busy couple of weeks. I'm sure it has been for a lot of you guys as well, right? I mean, not only do you deal with your day-to-day lives, you also may have individuals who have been graduating from different levels of school now, because there's graduations for everything: kindergarten, fifth grade, high school, college, you name it. So there's been a lot of activity and celebration, which has been so fun to be a part of myself. And yeah, so we just those come first, so here we are. But I do want to share my thoughts and how I felt about the first part of the reunion, and I'm curious to know what you thought as well. So make sure that you drop those down so we can have a conversation about it. I really do rather enjoy the different viewpoints, and then I also enjoy those viewpoints that are similar to mine. So it works either way. We just respectfully having conversation back and forth about our thoughts, and I think it's great. So I do hope that you will share your thoughts about the reunion and what you thought, and maybe what you expected, and then what you felt you got. Now, one thing that I thought was really good about the reunion is that we did get a chance to talk about the three principled individuals. And I thought that was really, really good. And I'm glad that they took some time to do that. I find that to be very important that that took as well, because it gave an opportunity to really hear, the three principled individuals, being Ariana, Tom Sandoval, and Rachel Raquel, or Raquel Rachel. I've been calling her Raquel Rachel. But yeah, it's just been nice to be able to listen to them individually, even without anyone else in the room, right? Just them and Andy. And so I appreciated that, no matter how ridiculous the responses were going to be. But he did start off with all three of them individually. They obviously were not together. He asked how Tom was doing, and Tom looked like a disheveled mess. Of course, he feels, regretful of the fact of how things have really laid out. I think that Tom probably thought that things were going to go a different way, and that he thought he was going to somehow become victorious out of the situation, that his lame excuses and reasons for why he cheated on Ariana was going to somehow resonate with individuals in a way that would make him be the right person and she be the wronged person. And yeah, it's just really despicable, actually. And so, he looked very somber. I think he played the part. I think he took the time to, what would make me look the most sympathetic, or, and I don't think any of it worked myself. But, there's some people who may not feel like he's all the way wrong. The behaviors that he exhibited as far as the conversations that he was having with Ariana, and even outside of that, just with explaining what he was doing, it's all about him, and how he was pretty much the wrong party, and that, he had no choice but to go and jump right into bed with her best friend. Now, one thing I think, or one of her best friends, what I think is interesting though, and this is something that resonated with me a lot in the last few episodes, basically since this big hoopla had brought itself to light. Tom would say often that Ariana, for him, would make him feel, I guess, small, not educated, not a smart guy. I don't think she had to try that hard. At the end of the day, he is 40 years old, I think now, and the way that he acts is insane to me. You would think you were dealing with teenagers. If you didn't see the face and you didn't see, anything about the individuals, you were just listening by audio of the stuff that you were hearing, you probably would not even think that you were seeing someone who was a whole grown adult. I mean, it's insane to me. And I feel that, sometimes when people decide they want to cheat, they'll go for what may be considered the less caliber because it's the easiest, right? I mean, this is kind of age old things. That's nothing new in that. But I really do feel, unfortunately for him and unfortunately in this situation, that he's really displayed that. She was a challenge to him. And I don't think Ariana had to do much to be a challenge, to be honest with you, right? Ariana seems like a bright, smart person. She does, seem like she wanted to be trusting of her relationship. She did share that in her one-on-one with Andy, that she did feel that, there was red flags and she wished that she could have seen those red flags, right? She wished that she had spotted them on. Now, I am of the school of thought that when you know something is going on or you feel something is going on, it's probably going on. Now, when I say meaning that when you're feeling it, something doesn't feel right in the air. And I'm very connected to the environment. So therefore, if something don't feel right with somebody, someone's, juju doesn't come across correctly, I'm already kind of antennas up. I cannot imagine that she did not have that. But, she says that she was pretty much just open to believing whatever they had to say because she trusted her boyfriend. Because yes, in theory, you should be able to trust your partners, right? In theory, you should be able to know that it's okay that if you're not in their eye spot, that they're not going to go and cheat on you. That if, in theory, yes, if you were having issues or problems, that they would feel most comfortable to come and talk to you about them, communicate those issues, see what you can do to maybe rectify those issues if this is a relationship you want to hold on to, or maybe break up. And I mean legitimately break up. Not try to take moments that the person may be in and maybe in a despairable situation where they can't believe what's happening and turn that against them. But it happens so much, doesn't it? And we wonder why people are always going off on people. So yeah, it's just one of those things that the constant brainwashing, I think, that he tries to do, the constant, what is the word? And yeah, I love this word. I can't think of it right now, but I'll come to it here in a minute. But any event, just the constant always trying to say that things are what they're not, and the coaching of it all, right? And obviously some of the things that Tom did with Rachel, is the same things that he did with Ariana, because Ariana said that was the case. So, of course, Tom is feeling regretful, at least by words. He's saying that he's regretful. He wishes that things would have been done differently. He wishes that, I think at the end of the day, still that he would have broke up with Ariana. It doesn't ever seem to be where he's talking in this tone as if he would have wanted to keep trying. So therefore, he was done. And, sometimes you have a couple and one might be done before the other. And, it's that responsibility of that one. If you care about, I don't know, the soul of somebody else, even, it would be nice to just kind of say, hey, this isn't working for me and we need to go ahead and part ways. I often questioned, the fact that Ariana wasn't necessarily interested in having kids and even getting married to Tom. And that does work in relationships when both parties are amenable to it from the get-go. It doesn't always seem to be something that looks like it'll be a fit or will continue to work out if in fact you're in a position where one of you wants to have a family and kids. And Tom did seem to have that, but Tom also did a lot of cheating. Irregardless, he was cheating before he was with Ariana. That just seems to be his thing. So I don't know if he's really that serious or not. And if I was someone that, and obviously I'm not going to be, but for any woman that decides to lay down the rest of their life with this man, I would be kind of concerned for that person and what you think you're going to achieve, because people do not change. They are who they are. And if they do, well, let me take that back. That may not be fair to say. If a person's going to change, it has to come from within. It has to come from that person's desire to do so. It's not going to be because you think that they're going to, or that you want them to so much. This doesn't work that way. And it's unfortunate because I really think that Ariana was probably an easygoing person, but at the same time, yeah, if you're coming to her with some bull caca, she's not interested, right? She's going to tell you like it is because we're grown adults. We're not children. We're not adolescents. You should be able to have a conversation. And, the kind of examples that he had used for what was such an irritation for him in part 2, which I will go into a little bit further when I do that live, which will be a little bit after this one. It's insidious. It's ridiculous, right? Now, of course, for Ariana, she is, she looked good. I have to say, she looked good. She looked refreshed. She looked like she's been making money, and that is what she's been happening. And hey, look, if you're going to have to get a consequence out of this situation, let it be money. But on both fronts, on all fronts, because I mean, she's got commercials going. I mean, I think I've seen at least two commercials, bona fide commercials with her, and all the other countless sponsorships. And of course, the money's probably going to go up in that salary. So, yeah, I mean, they're doing the thing. They are doing the thing. So if you're going to have something so despicable happen to you in front of the world, then you might as well get paid for it, I guess is the moral of that story, right? You get what you need to get out of the situation. But yeah, it's just been one of those things. But anyway, she looked good. She said, look, she's feeling much better now because, as you know, everything broke in the scandal in March, and they're doing their was it late May, right? Their reunion is starting late May and going into early June, obviously, because we're in June now. And so, of course, it was very intense. There was a lot coming at her at one time. And so she's had some time to settle in, and you could see that. One thing that I thought was so interesting that she had shared, and I don't hear this enough, and so therefore I appreciate hearing it from her, is the concept when we move from a space, when we're in a relationship where you've been betrayed so heinously as what Tom did, and you get yourself into a point of dissonance of that person, where you're into a situation where, it's not love or hate. It's that kind of just, I'm neutral, I'm good. Because once you start getting into that dissonant stage, you then become more moving forward in the grieving of that relationship and moving forward and moving on for what you need. And I think that's a fantastic place to be, especially with something so egregious as what this is. And then on top of that, having to watch it because she's been watching it too, but having to deal with that in front of the world. I mean, it's insane. Even if you think that, maybe some things might have been a little bit blown out of proportion, some maybe even question if this was for real. I personally think it is for real. I think that the stuff that I see is really authentic to what is going on. It makes sense to me. So unless something comes out later on, otherwise, I believe that it is authentic. And just sad, So, at that point, she did again talk about the red flags that she wished that she had paid attention to, but she just did not really think that that was something that she had to question when it came to her long life partner. And I think she really somehow felt that if she just, he would just come to talk to her if they had issues. Now, also, this has been a really rough year for Ariana because she had shared about the fact that she had lost her grandmother and she lost her dog. And that was a lot of loss, a lot of love in those entities. And there was a lot of loss there. So, it was a lot. And to then now go on to this, I mean, 2022 to early part 2023, early part, mind you, was not that good to Ariana. And I don't think anyone would wish to be in those kind of shoes, right? So, that's basically the one-on-one gifts between the two. And then we've got Raquel Rachel, the second villain of the story, along with Tom. And she is... she's a bit of an odd duck. And sometimes you don't know if this is like a put on, because I hear so much about Raquel. I hear, or Raquel Rachel, and now see, I'm calling her something as someone else. I just, something is off. Okay. Something is off. And I don't know if it's like a game and she's playing a villain role and she thinks that, okay, this is how I need to act. And so I'm going to act in this way. Or is this legitimately her all the way? I feel it is her, right? I feel that it's her and she's like kind of playing a role in a sense with the way that she moves. And it's very, very odd. It's very odd. And it's insane, the responses that she gives in most times. Like, it's just like, yeah, what is wrong with you? Okay. So, and that phrase is so overused, isn't it? But it's insane, the responses that she gives. Now, when Andy asks Rachel how she's feeling, I mean, she's doing okay. And, how do you feel about seeing the rest of the group? Well, I'm just going to expect the worst and hope for the best. Like, that seems to me like something I wouldn't even say in that situation. I am going to expect the worst and hope for the best. What best are you hoping for exactly? I mean, what do you think is going to happen? You should just be expecting the worst and knowing the worst is coming. I mean, unless maybe her, I don't know, what is your level of worse, because this is pretty darn bad. But yeah, it's just insane, the nonchalantness of that. Now there's going to be people who are going to speculate, on what that is, and I'm sure there's probably a number of things, and we may hear things that are more legitimized, as to maybe if she has conditions or not. We don't know, we're not doctors here. Well, some people maybe. I'm not, so I'm not diagnosing or any of that kind of stuff. So but she does seem odd to me, and just not connected with whatever is going on, and obviously doesn't have a value system in which she values people around her who are actually good to her. Now, Raquel Rachel has been a pageant girl, right? And in all intents and purposes, a failed one, because she was going up for Miss California, which I don't even get any of that. But anyway, that's what she was doing. And that didn't work out for her. And now she's aged out. So now she's got to figure out what's her next move, right? Which, hey, that's normal for any of us. If we're doing things and we need to figure out what's going on with our next steps in our life. And so that's where she's at now. And I guess she may have thought that this was going to be that ticket. I don't know. But I think that with the pressures and the way things run in the pageant world and all of that, and modeling this, that, and the other, if you're not in a position where you have grounded people around you and that you are a grounded person, I could see that kind of business could eat you alive. I mean, you really have to know yourself. You have to know who you are and the people that are around you, and the yes men type of concept around you 24/7, or telling you, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so this, or you're so that. Give me a break. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not even real life, but you do see how people want to make that real life. And there's just so much more going on, and so much more about life than that. But, hey, if that is what you're into, that is great. I think that it's wonderful if you, can do it within a balance. I mean, I love a lot of individuals who have been able to really come out of doing pageant worlds and used it for good. And I guess just like anything that you do, it can be negative or positive, right? So like some things, like I like what Kenya Moore was able to do. All right, she was Miss USA. I like how she has parlayed her life into a real workable situation. And she's done movies and she's done all kinds of things, and she's a business owner, and I just love that. I love that about her story. I just think was not prepared whatever would be after the fact. I think that in her situation, she always thought this is all it was going to be. And it's fine if you use those ways of doing things. We all start off in different, genres of things maybe that we don't do for the rest of our lives, but you're supposed to be able to pick up those, stepping stones from that and move it on to something else. And I just don't see her parlaying anything to anything. I want to be surprised. I want to be like, oh, wow, okay, she's going to be a great businesswoman one day. I just don't see it right now. I think there's a lot going on there. And there's a lot of personal information that has come out, about obviously her upbringing in the sense of how she came to this world. But everyone's got a story, right? Everybody's got a situation. Kenya had a situation that I find is completely heartbreaking. And she's making it. She's doing it. She's doing what she needs to do. So, everybody's different. But I think that with any type of, well, especially something in that arena, there's an expiration date and you've got to be able to move forward. And I don't know, I just feel like there should be more. But again, it really is not everyone. Not everyone falls in that case. There's people who are much more worldly in life and just in intelligence, and they know things, they do things, they've done other things, they understand the values of life, and they know how to really work and strategize. And that's not always an easy thing for people to do. And I don't think it's going to be something easy for Raquel to do. She's really good at burning bridges, though. She's real good at that. She's real good at doing that. And I don't know, maybe she thought this was a soap opera and she had to play that role. But the fact is that this is your life. So I do think that someone could probably benefit if they had a role in a movie of, playing the best friend, the ditzy level of that, who sleeps with your man. She could be someone you could watch and maybe get some pointers in your acting ability, not to be doing this in real life, so it's just insane. But any of it, that's what it was. So she is a little bit nervous. I think Ariana has nothing to be nervous about, but she probably, she hadn't really seen Tom, as she also shared in her one-on-one, really too much. She had go-betweens with her and Tom, so they would not run into each other because they both are still living in the home together. So hopefully that will be something that will change soon, especially with her and her new shop and all these wonderful ventures and sponsors that she is getting. And she's getting a lot of work. So I think that she's a smart woman, and she will parlay this in a way that will allow her to eventually move out of that home once they get all of those things taken care of. Because I believe there's liens and stuff that have been reported on the home, and things they need to work out money wise. That has not been doing so well, and so they're trying to work through those things. And so it's really hard when you make these commitment situations, like buying a house with someone. That's already a difficult process, anyways, for most people. But when you're doing this without someone you're in a real true committed relationship with, like being married. Now, does that mean you have to be married? No, but it does mean that you should find someone who you actually can do this with. But you know what? People get married every day too, and those don't always work out. So it's always falls down to the person, right? It doesn't necessarily always matter the status that you're in. It's about the people. And people, we just got to get better at choosing the right partners for ourselves. I mean, because this was like insidious what happened. But so there was a lot of conversation about those things, and getting that kind of out of the air. And then, of course, we move on to the introductions of the actual cast coming on stage and getting ready to get started. I think everybody was ready to go. All eyes and target was on Tom and soon to be Raquel, or Rachel, whatever. Because as you know, there was a temporary restraining order that Raquel had actually put on Sheena because there was alleged, I guess, a little bit of brutality. She says she got punched or punched, and she had a permanent scar or something like that on her forehead. And of course, Sheena denies that from a lot of fronts. Basically, she did, I guess, push her, but it did seem like it came from a place of maybe, I don't know, maybe Raquel could have possibly had put her hands on her, trying to stop when they were going back and forth after Sheena had heard what was going on or was told what was going on. So there was a little bit of tussle there. We don't really know the 100% of that, but nevertheless, due to that temporary restraining order, the two ladies had to be no less than 100 yards apart. And so they're in their separate trailers, 100 yards away from each other. They couldn't speak to each other, any kind of communication, anything was a no-go. So Sheena actually took the stage first, and she took the stage for all of part one and pretty much all of part two as well until the very end. And I think that was fitting because I wanted to see, both Sheena and Raquel on stage. I wanted to see both of them, be at least participant in the reunion. It did not want to be where one was going to be there and the other one wasn't going to be there. I think that it was important to have them both there because of the relationship that not only that Sheena has with Ariana as that being her best friend, and also Tom, because they've been friends for like 14 years. But she also had a very motherly, sisterly type of relationship with Raquel. She just kind of took Raquel under her wings and helped her, had a place for her. She had an apartment that was in LA, and she allowed Raquel to stay in that apartment when she didn't have a place to essentially live, because as you knew in the previous season, Raquel had ended her engagement with James, and James and her had lived together naturally during their time. So it was just all of that. It was so much emotion. I think Sheena was extremely upset. I understand why she was upset, and obviously we know what we see, but there might have been even no one wants to feel like they've been played for a fool, right? And we definitely know that Tom and Raquel was playing everybody for a fool, and so there was that. Now, of course, Lala, she came in blazing just with James. Just came up, power blazing. They were gunning and ready for it because at the end of the day, too, Ariana, who I that she handled herself very well, very put together. She looked great, and she let it be known that she ain't here to play around, and allowed Lala and James to be the ones to really get in after Tom. Now, the fact that Tom comes out, now, let's back up for just a second. As they're all coming out, right, onto the stage, Andy speaks to Tom Schwartz and asks Schwartz, I've got one question for you. And he's like, yeah. He's like, and the question is, were you silenced or were you being silent? And I thought, oh, yes, we're getting in there. Ask those questions that we want to know because it don't make no sense. The amount of ridiculousness that occurred in that situation. And for Tom to just be kind of like, and I don't think he was so, maybe he was innocent of the situation to a certain point, but I do feel, in my opinion, he did know for a very long time and he did let it slip that he knew. A little bit longer than Tom had wanted, Tom being Sandoval, wanted to have shared. Because I think that they couldn't get their lives together, couldn't get their story straight. And I believe that Lala actually asked that question at some point too. I think that was in part one as well. But yeah, so it was quite interesting how that happened. Now, Lala, she is still fresh off of her Randall breakup, which is a huge breakup too, but it is kind of huge in a different way because we're talking about Scandoval in such in everything. It's been a news report on it almost every single day for weeks. This went on. It was just so much tea dropping along this cheating scandal that we hadn't seen in any other situation on Vanderpump Rules for sure. And, Lala and Randall, they made a lot of splash in regards to some of the controversy, like when they were dealing with 50 Cent. And, Randall had apparently owed 50 Cent some money. He's like, you're going to give me my money by Monday. I think it was at 4:30 p.m., if I remember correctly, because, 50 Cent wasn't playing with him. So, they are not new to the ways of how it could be when their business is all out in the street, right? But Lala is very, very hurt, obviously, with the breakup of the situation, but not maybe so much the breakup, but what's happening subsequently. Because as we all know, Lala does have her beautiful baby Ocean with Randall, and she is trying to make sure that her daughter is protected in what she feels is necessary. And of course, Randall is, doing what Randall's doing. Now, apparently there's a documentary on Hulu or something that's about Randall, and it shares about things that he has done, some alleged stuff that has been going on. He's dealing with lawsuits and apparently some alleged stuff with lawsuits and what is it? The casting couch situation and so forth. And that was a little bit more talked about in part two, so I won't go too much deep in that. But this is what she's coming with, that energy, right? And also some other SA situations, so harassment situations. So yeah, of course, she is really just on edge, and she is so done with the foolishness of Tom and what he did. And she also feels like Tom, as she shared, that he's going to be like Randall in 10 years. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I can see it. I can see it. I mean, I don't know much about Randall, and I haven't seen much about Randall. I didn't even know who he was until Lala brought him into our sphere. But from the stuff that she has said, and just by life experience and many of examples of seeing a lot of things that are not right with people, I can see as a comparison that Tom could be. I don't think that she's all the way. Yeah, she's definitely projecting, of course, but at part of the human experience is that we do project at times. And she's so upset and incensed that this idiot would do what he did to Ariana, that, of course she's going to flash back and forth to her relationship. Now, a lot of people will say the same thing about Lala. A lot of people will think that Lala is a mistress. Lala disagrees with that. She is not here for anyone that calls her that. But a lot of people do feel that way. They feel that she got involved with a married man. How does she not know about this, that, and the other? Now, there are lots of situations where you may not know everything about who you're dealing with. People lie like it ain't nothing. Okay. But yeah, there can be times where you're kind of thinking, did you feel anything? Or were you so caught up in the private jets and all of that you just said, look, I'm just here for all of this and it doesn't matter what's going on. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you kind of wonder, but it is what it is. So now she's fighting it out, and she's doing a lot of work and conversation about the justice system and how things work when family court and all that kind of stuff. So she's pretty busy with dealing with those aspects. So she's bringing all that energy naturally to the reunion, right? And she's definitely going to make sure Tom hears her feelings. Now James, on the other hand, he feels like he's a wrong party as Ariana too, and I think that he feels he's a wrong party, but yet he's not getting the same. So he's the attention. So he's making sure he's bringing that attention without quite saying, hey, look, me, I'm a victim too, right? Because we are to believe that Tom and Rachel got together after the breakup. But now there's people are questioning if maybe that wasn't the case, if maybe there might have been a little bit of sparks flying between Raquel, Rachel, and Tom before the breakup with James. So we still have a part 3 to go through, and some big reveal that I don't know if it's going to really be that big when we get to it, because you know how sometimes things are kind of beefed up and put up to make you think that, oh my gosh, it's going to be so earth shattering, and then you get to it and it's like, okay, that's it, so we'll see. Maybe it will be all that greatness. We'll see what happens. But so James, he feels very, very hurt and betrayed by Tom, which I don't really know why. Okay, if some of the things that James did not do in the earlier seasons, I may have felt that way, but I don't know. Like, honestly, he slept with Kristen, which was a longtime girlfriend for Tom in the beginning of the season. I think like season 2 or 3 or whenever he came on, season 4 or something like that. And Tom, and I if I remember correctly, back at that time, there was some overlap. Now, they showed some clipbacks for prior reunions where they talked about, certain pieces, and they were talking about how James may have gotten with, I guess, with Kristen when they broke up, or he was an ex or something, but it was too close. Clearly, James knew Sandoval, and they were really close friends, and he knew that, that Kristen and Tom were together and all this other stuff. But James will let you believe that, hey, I was 21 years old, so, I'm not doing that kind of stuff now, and blah, 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 blah. So, but he feels betrayed. He feels that him and Tom had a brotherhood, and that he crossed that brotherhood. And I do still feel that he does feel upset about Raquel as well. Do I think that he still wants to be with Raquel? I think in the beginning we were kind of seeing a little bit of that. I mean, it's okay. They were together for like 5 years, which that was hard to believe to me, but they were together for 5 years. He was going to marry this one. So the fact that he may still have residual feelings for her didn't bother me so much, because I could see that being the case. Yeah, it could happen. You could have residual feelings. But I think as the scandal came about, it turned into more anger, right? About how those two could get together. And of course he would feel that way, because Tom had spent a grip on elements for the Rochella, I think it was Rochella, the proposal that James had with Raquel. So, he spent money, I think, on what was it, fireworks and some other shenanigans. So of course James feels, like, what? You're stepping into territory that you shouldn't be in. So all of the corpse, all of the insults that James could come up with. I mean, we've heard some new ones, the man worm and stuff like that. I mean, he just was daggers for Tom. That was his daggers for Tom. And I thought it was funny when, I mean, he just got out of control, right? I mean, he wanted to be the star of the show. I'm sure, feeling he's the number one guy, because look, who's he comparing himself to, right? The two Toms, and nobody's checking for either one of them. And so therefore this is his moment. So he gonna shine. And I tell you what, James, if one thing he gonna do, he gonna shine. And I wasn't always the biggest fan of James. I didn't like some of the things that he would say, some of the insults. He kind of went below the belt a lot of times. But I did find him quite funny this season. And some of the things, not everything he did, obviously, but, he did, I did get some laughs out of him. And, it is what it is. So he definitely was going for him. Now, I want to know your thoughts about that. Do you think that James, if you are Vanderpump Rules, fan, if James has a reason to feel upset about what went on with Tom and Raquel Rachel? Or do you think he's overreacting, or that he should get over it? Drop that down in the chat if you're watching me live, or jot it down in the comment section. I would really like to know your thoughts, because I know there's a kind of a back and forth on how people feel about how James should feel as well. And do you think he should just move on from that situation, fully emotionally move on, that is, and fully just focus on Allie with his new girlfriend? So I say yes to that. But we all know that grief happens in many different situations, and just like you would grieve a passing of someone, you do grieve relationships, you grieve jobs lost, you grieve certain things that were pivotal or important in your life. So there is a grieving process that happens when you break up, and definitely, I would imagine he felt some sort of humiliation it happening live in front of everybody during last year's reunion, right? She could have did the breakup off off show. And they could have just talked about it in the show, but for all of us to see it happening live was, I thought, was a little bit, but that was just me. But yeah, so it was quite interesting to see how that all unfolded as well. But if you are kind of thinking like me, I just feel like, I think, get your digs in, say what you have to say, get it all out. And then by next season, I don't want to hear anymore in the sense of it being like you still, I don't know, feeling something, because you have your girlfriend now and everybody's saying that you're doing well. So kind of concentrate on that. And Raquel Rachel is not someone you need to be concentrating on anymore. Let that be in the wind. Let that go. Consider it a blessing and move on. Now, another thing I found to be interesting, but I'm not surprised, is Lisa Vanderpump. Now, Lisa, as she's coming on stage, she kind of felt like with her outfit, that she was a gladiator. By the way, I didn't do an outfit video for the Vanderpump Rules reunion looks. If you would like to share with me what looks you like, go ahead and do that in the comment section, because I would like to know what you preferred. I liked Lala's dress. I thought Lala looked really great. I liked Ariana's dress. I think she looked really great. I like Sheena. I like the gold, and that works for Sheena. I thought she looked good. But I want to say probably my favorite look was probably Lala's. I think that dress was gorgeous. I think she wore it well too. And then probably Ariana might be the second, but because that was quite a dress, wasn't it? And then of course, I did like Cheetah. Now, Katie's dress, that was good for Katie. I didn't mind Katie's look. That was good for Katie. So I appreciate it. I thought it was cute. I like a cake moment, and I think it's probably definitely the prettiest that I've seen her in a reunion. And Katie's a pretty girl. So I'm glad to see her, really getting into her own with that. And I think she did a lovely job. So, good kudos on Katie for that. But I would love to know, because I didn't do a video of that. I did that on Real Housewives of New Jersey, and I'll be talking about part 1 on that one as well, and a different live. But yeah, Andy said the same thing I said about them too, that this is probably their best look, reunion look wise for New Jersey. And I said that in my video. If you haven't watched that, make sure you take a look at that, because I said that. But any event, back to the shenanigans of it all. At the end of the day, this reunion was going to be very centered around the scandoval situation, and it was definitely surrounded that. They did talk a lot about Lisa's support of Tom. She has known these people for so long, and matter of fact, some of them have known each other the same amount of time, maybe even longer. But she sees these people like her kids, and so therefore it's hard to just kind of cut them at the knees. But at the same time, wrong is wrong, and she said she was going to make sure she let him know. Now, Ariana did share that, look, that may have a bit of a strain on our situation. I would hate for that to be the case, but I'm not interested in dealing with anybody that is dealing with Tom Sandoval. I'm just cutting everybody out. So this is a kind of, it's either me or him type of situation. It's quite the same ultimatum that Lala had said in last season about the split up with Randall, where she said basically the same thing. She's cutting off everybody. If you want to be friends with Randall or continue to be friends with Randall, then you cannot be my friend. So we're in that mode right now. Now, for Lala's situation, she had to deal with, quite a bit in regards to, the kind of the back and forth when it came to that. Ariana's having an easier go at it, I think, just because of the situations. But, Tom Schwartz, I don't think is ever going to leave Sandoval. I can't imagine he'll ever leave him. I think there's a lot of codependency going on there. There's a lot of weirdness going on there. So I don't think that he will ever just abandon his friend, even at the cost of everything, right? They did, speaking of the cost of everything, talk about the Yelp reviews. And I mean, it was horrible, right? They were doing really good riding high with those Sandoval thing. And at the end of the day, it was horrible because he too, being, guilt by association, he got it too. And unfortunately, so the people who work in these restaurants and stuff. So that was a really huge issue for Tom, but he's still hanging in there, right? And of course, he may not have much choice because he is still a partner there. One thing I also thought was interesting is that they end up, I guess, off camera taking their 50% off, or not 50% off, I'm sorry, their share out of TomTom. So, their original investment in TomTom with Lisa was $50,000 per each person, right? And so combinedly, they had like 10% ownership in that TomTom. Well, if you remember within the season, Lisa and Ken were talking, and Ken came with the idea, if they need some money to help, get the Swartz and Sandy up, we can give them back their investment and then give them basically a year to put it back in to maintain their Tom ownership. And so at the time, it didn't appear that they were going to take it, but apparently they did because it was mentioned in the reunion. So yeah, it was 50K both. So at this point, Tom is saying, Schwartz is saying, I don't know how true it is, but he's saying that, yeah, things are going great. Lala did chime in about the fact, yeah, the food is great at the restaurant. So that's wonderful. And then, of course, yeah, he said that I guess a lot of all of that was going on initially is starting to dissipate. So we'll just have to see if that's all true or not. But at least, it's still opening, it's still operational. I guess we'll see what happens. But they took quite a hit, and having that hit happen in the beginning is really, really bad. Right. So, yeah, so they, talked about that a little bit. And, if you are in the California area or anything, or ever been there or ate there or whatever, let me know. I would love to know that. But yeah, so that is kind of the gist of what they were talking about there. Of course, they went really deep into the actual scandal of it all. Tom just says the same thing. Now, what was really funny is him coming on there when the first question about how you doing, and he starts crying. I mean, like, give me a break, Tom. Honestly, like, what is going on? I don't know. I don't know who's his people, but it was just like, it was so contrite. I can't. I can't. I find it really difficult to find the authenticity in those tears. And I go back to, feeling that, are you crying because you were upset about what you did to her and destroyed all of what you had built with her in one single swoop? For the village idiot, or are you just simply upset because you got caught, or because you could not say what you needed to say and get out what you needed to get out the way you wanted to? I mean, it's insane. Really, it really is insane. So that's a lot of what they talked about there. Of course, Lala and James were not here for. They were clapping back like it was nobody's business, right? Like, don't you start. You are not the victim. You are not the victim. And they're right. Tom is not the victim. Tom is, if he is a victim, he's a victim of his own device. He did this to himself. So if you're looking for sympathy on that, I just don't think you're going to get it, bud. I don't think you're going to get it. And I just thought it was really funny how James was making sure, because look at here, James has done a lot of things over the last 10 years or so. And therefore, this was an opportunity where he wasn't the bad guy. Oh, yes, he's definitely going to go in. And he did just that. And everyone's going to jump on that bandwagon. And let me tell you, that doesn't happen often for James. Usually James is the one that's the antagonist in the situation. And this time he was not, but he definitely made sure he hopped on that train, and it was a moving train, and he gonna get his piece. So I thought it was kind of funny, but they did not let up on Tom at all. They were not trying to hear his shenanigans in regards, and that's a shout out to Sheena, in regards to the reasons why he was doing it. He did a lot of victim blaming, of course. The intimacy was an issue. He didn't feel like they were connected that way. Now, there has been conversation about that quite often in the last couple of years or so. I think that there was, there obviously has some issues there. But of course, like Ariana says, you don't go and mess with my friend, right? You talk to me. We try to work these out, or we break up. But you don't just go mess with my friends, like, and, we're talking about mojo nonsense. Like, who even uses that word anymore? But, it was just insane but true to form, how Tom seems to be. And what I thought was interesting is when they did the kind of clip backs to previous episodes of times where Tom has done this before, tells you how much, even for myself watching it, I really just wasn't paying attention to every little thing, obviously, because, yes, he did do a lot of the same actions with Kristen, making her like she was crazy. And Kristen's crazy probably anyways, but definitely it didn't help, right? Now, I'm not a Christian fan by any means, but the stuff that I'm good at compartmentalizing. So the stuff that Tom did in that situation was uncalled for. It was literally uncalled for. So yeah, that was that. A lot of craziness with that situation. So they were not letting him have. They were letting him have it, not letting him off. And Tom was not getting off either. He was. They wanted to know. I want to know when you knew these things. Tom Schwartz shares about the fact that sometime in July you started talking about how unhappy you were. It was like Tom Sandoval was literally, creating a timeline of things, creating a story where no one else was aware of that story. So when it came out, we would all be like, oh my gosh, Ariana was such a horrible person. Of course he would go out and do what he did. Oh, he needs to know what shame is and stick in that for a while. Yeah. But will Tom continue to do this? Yeah, because as long as he continues feeling like he's a victim of his own devices, he's going to do this again. Raquel Rachel is not someone he's going to be with for long term. That is my opinion. That is my feeling. Now he's going to make you feel like he is, but I don't think he is. I think that this is going to pass over. I think this is a situation where, it's all good and gravy when you're sitting there sneaking around and doing all that because that's dangerous. And then once everybody finds out and they're not fond of you, well, then this is never going to work, right? This wasn't built out of any love, no matter what Raquel Rachel is saying, because I don't think she understands what love is, to be honest with you. I think that she has some real rooted work. That's just my opinion, but I think there's some real rooted work that needs to be done there. Yeah. So there's that. But I also, going back to Lisa and her support of him, Lala wasn't hearing for it. And I thought it was so funny. She had one of the best lines in it. And yeah, we all can have our opinions, and opinions are like buttholes, right? Everybody's got one, right? But I thought it was funny when she said, hey, look, this man, being Tom, is a dangerous man, right? Remember, she had said Tom is going to be like Randall in 10 years, okay? He's on his way. That's going to be a Randall. And of course, it was a clutch the pearl moment for Lisa. And she was like, Lala, you shouldn't say that. I mean, that's not, you can't be calling him a dangerous man. And she said, that is my opinion. She goes, well, that's my opinion. And the fact that Lala tells her, well, I don't really ask for anyone's opinion. And of course, Lisa, in her demure way, she probably didn't expect to get that clap back from one of the people that used to work for her. If that really was true either, or was that part of the part? Who knows? But yeah, she says, well, but I'm giving my opinion. She says, well, yeah, great. I'd reject it. I thought that was great. I think it was one of the greatest lines. I reject it. Yeah, you're gonna have your opinion, but I reject it. So yeah, do I think he's dangerous? I mean, I don't know what Lisa was thinking as far as dangerous and what her definition of dangerous is, but I understand exactly what Lala was saying. I don't think that it requires much for you to get what she's talking about. She's talking about dangerous in relationships, dangerous in love, dangerous in companionship, not someone you could trust. That is dangerous. I think sometimes we may think of danger for some, not everybody, obviously, but some may think that danger is only connected to physical situations. No, it's connected to everything, just like abuse is. It's connected to emotional, mental, physical. It can be all of those things. And dangerous is the same thing. You mess around with too many people like a Tom Sandoval, you're going to have a problem in your life. And he's going to keep on moving around, going from one person to the next person, and everyone in every different area code like it ain't no thing when he's sitting there traveling around in his band, quasi band, whatever that is, and, thinking that he's the hot stuff of that situation. And then you as a female are going to be sitting there and especially thinking he's, being, I don't know, true to you or somehow you may be different than the others. So yeah, I agree. He is dangerous. Emotionally, partnership wise, he is a dangerous person. He's not someone that you should be in a relationship with if you're looking to be in a real relationship, because I don't think he's going to give it to you. I don't think it's going to happen just like that. I think that Tom has a lot of things that he needs to work out, right? So I don't think that's a mystery in that. But of course, she definitely makes sure that she lets it known. Now, Andy does say, look, I don't understand why everybody's so upset about everything, because at the end of the day, well, he didn't say it quite like that, but that's kind of maybe how he meant it. I don't know. But he says at the end of the day, look, all of y'all been messing around. And he went down the list of everybody. Everybody got a hit. The only two people that hadn't, as far as we know, was Katie and Lisa Vanderpump. And that's because Katie was in a relationship, being that marriage that I don't understand why she was in. I kind of feel like, and I may have mentioned this before, my thoughts on Katie and Tom Schwartz, I never got them. I never got it. She seemed from the jump. I mean, from the jump. Okay. She was always in an argument with him, whether it was him starting and her starting, it doesn't even matter anymore. She was always upset, always unhappy. I rarely ever saw her smile. She didn't seem like she was much at all interested in what was going on with him because he was too busy annoying her every 5 seconds. So the fact that they even made it to marriage is astonishing to me. I would never even have guessed that they would have made it to marriage. The ultimatums and stuff like that, the rings on a necklace, and it was just all the buffoonery of it all. This man has an issue with commitment, obviously, to this person. He may have an issue with commitment as a whole because he's committed to Tom. He's committed to whatever he obviously feels is important, but isn't that how commitment works? But Katie, I don't think Katie was ever his person. And maybe Katie was always meant to just be a friend. I don't know what the push happened. I'm not in a relationship, but at the end of the day, I never thought they belonged together. So I thought that when they said, when she finally got to a point, and obviously she's dealt with some hurt to get to that point, but when they got to that point where she's like, I can't do this anymore, I was like, yes, good job, good on you. It's okay. Split that up, move on. And she did mention, with that situation also about the friend Joe. Joe was a friend of Kristen's, I believe. And then as soon as, I guess, Katie was out the picture, Joe stopped responding to Kristen because obviously Kristen and Katie, they still are cool. And Joe had, I guess, lived with the other town idiot, Schwartz, although Sheena says that Tom Schwartz is very smart. So maybe he's acting too. I don't know. Maybe it's just easier to act that way. I don't know. But yeah, so they're apparently together and living together for a short period of time. He said it was just a friends with benefits situation, not with her anymore. Tom does not have any kind of a relationship with the word boundaries. Okay. And look, Tom was another one who was sitting there bed hopping throughout their relationship prior to getting married. Okay. Like, come on. These are not people who were interested in commitment with whoever they're with. But in the case of Tom and Katie, they didn't really belong together. And so I do hope that Katie finds someone who is worthy of her and the time that she needs to make with him. Because Tom's not it. So he's just not it. So, and I don't even know if he's even good as a friend, to be honest with you, because you got to be able to trust your friends, right? Sometimes people trust their friends more than they trust their spouses. Sometimes they trust their spouses, their friends more than their boyfriends and, whatever. So if you can't even trust, then what's the point of friendship? It's not even necessary. Why are you wasting your time and that energy, right? So that's how that goes. But yeah, it was quite an interesting take. And I would love to know your thoughts on that. Did you think that Tom and Katie should have even been married? This is a bit of an old school kind of question because now here we are. But if you've been watching along or just even listening to the last season here, season 10, you got all you needed to know that these two were not a match. But I would love to know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that they were matched? Do you think that it was a good idea that she moved on? Because I do. Because ain't nobody was happy about nothing in that situation. I don't even know. The most important thing I think that happened for them that they were happy about, at least the house that they moved into. But then look what happens. 2 years later, now we're moving out. What's the point of it all? But yeah, so that was a lot of issues there. Now, they also talked a little bit about the Big Bear situation. Now, that was brought up, right? Because Joe and Tom apparently were double dating. Now, Tom would say we were not, but come on, right? And what was so funny is that James was like, hey, look, Rachel, because she was the one sneaking off the Big Bear with Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval. Okay, so it was a foursome thing. And James quirks about, hey, look, she don't even like she being Raquel Rachel snowboarding. Okay, so clearly she was there before the scandoval of it all. Okay, so I thought that was kind of funny. She didn't deny anything because she couldn't deny anything because she's just watching backstage in her trailer, looking lost as ever, trying to compute things. Yeah, I don't even know if it's a point even talking about her right now. But yeah, that was what that was about, right? And she commented on a couple things I don't even remember, don't even care. But that was that. And then so what did he say? Tom said something about something. Oh, of course. So Tom Schwartz is basically saying, look, we were not double dating. I don't know why I'm like, look, Tom, give up the ghost. Okay. Everybody knows what was going on there. And even you did. To see, yeah, they were bit cozy and didn't understand where the heck was Ariana. So, it was too much going on there. There was also the conversation about, what was that other thing they were talking about? There was also another moment that they were covering. Yeah, it's gone just that fast. But yeah, it was quite interesting how they did talk about again the situation evolving about how the scandoval came up. We know that through that situation, Ariano basically was at Tom Tom at the time that Sheena and Raquel Rachel were on Watch What Happens Live. She was over there cheering her fans for her man, and saw the phone, or someone saw the phone, handed her the phone. She decided something kicked in, like women's intuition, and she got in there and saw what she needed to see. So that was horrible. She talked about that, talked about how they were in the car, and it was just really, really horrible. And they talked more about it in number 2 as well, and I'll cover that a little bit more then. But yeah, they also asked, the question, how did it feel, you, Tom Sandoval, seeing both Raquel and Ariana sitting there cheering for you right there in front on the stage? I mean, he must have been living it up, right? He must have been thinking he was so smart. So yeah, while he was just bombarding his life. Now, do I think Tom will recover from all of this? Yeah, I mean, he will. I mean, look, there's always somebody who will take somebody in like that. Okay. And unfortunately, that's what it is. There's always going to be somebody who's going to pick up this man and think that he's actually worth their time. And if that's what happens, then, buoy for you. Maybe it will be with someone that does not require them losing their complete soul and sanity by dealing with them and then passing that on to somebody else who was not deserving of that. But yeah, so that's a lot of what they covered in part 1. I don't think there was too much more that they talked about other than that. Lisa again just defended Tom about what he did. I think she was more concerned about the pile-on when it came to Tom. I think she just didn't want everybody to continue to keep getting on him. I guess because he was a broken man. I don't know. But yeah, James, I think he really stole the show quite a bit with his antics, because it was like, okay, corral in there, boy. He was going at it. It was really funny, the back and forth on that. He was told to stop acting a fool. Is he says, well, I'd be put back into a timeout, and he's supposed to get a spanking and all this other stuff. So I mean, he was just loving it. I mean, it was so funny, and I would have loved to seen backstage looks from Allie, because I could imagine a couple of eye roll moments, right? Because she's not here for all of his foolishness. But yeah, it was quite funny to see James just really act a rare form and actually be funny. It wasn't as so much hateful or whatnot. It was just what it was. So I think that was good. They did also talk a little bit about the dynamics of the friendship between Lala and Katie, because things have shifted. Katie, when she came on the show in the first season, if you've watched it, you'll know. If you're not, she actually was on with 2 other members again that are not on here. Chris and I mentioned in the other one I'm not mentioning, but they actually all were together on the show, and they were the mean girls of the show, right? Such an out-of-date term, isn't it? But an out-of-date concept. But yeah, they're the mean girls of the group. And when Sheena came in, Sheena was one of those individuals who really wanted to kind of fit in, wanted to be cool with everybody and all that stuff. So she had a hard way to go with these girls. So the fact that Katie and Sheena, which Katie's now the only one standing really for the most part on the show, out of her mean girl cycle, for them to become friends long term, or hopping to the friendship situation, it just didn't seem very logical to me, because I think deep down they're just not each other's person. They could sit there and talk about what they need to talk about to get to the root of the problem, but I don't think that they're each other's person. I don't think Katie has any interest in dealing with Sheena, doesn't understand how Sheena does things and how she operates, and vice versa. Sheena had a lot of pent-up feelings in regards to what was going on with Katie, because Katie said some not so flattering things to Sheena, and it's made her hurt over the years. And so it was a lot of that mean girl situation that she felt, and she just felt that she was team Raquel, right? And so whatever she needed to do was to protect Raquel, and that's what she did. And that was the explanation basically for why she came in so hard and felt it was okay for Tom Schwartz and Raquel to have their moment of passion, which was an awkward kiss of a couple of times and way too much conversation, which now we all know was a beard for Tom and Raquel. They also mentioned about the Abby situation. Remember, Allie had talked with James that she had heard that apparently Tom and well, it goes a lot further, right? That Tom and Raquel Rachel were at the Abbey, but they were together. They was kind of wondering, where's Ariana? Come to find out, Ariana, I think, was at home at that time, and he over there, it was a lot more than that situation, right? And they end up sleeping together, and then he goes to the door and he gets locked out like the idiot he is, and he gets locked out. And so Raquel or Ariana has opened up the door for him right after this was what was going on. I mean, it's just disgusting on so many levels. But yeah, that was what was going on there. But Sheena has a lot of apologies for Katie, because she felt that I should not have treated Katie in that way. Should have been much more understanding, especially now that her best friend, who she really does care about, being Ariana, went through what she went through, and she just never could imagine being so betrayed by Raquel. So that was how that went down, for the most part. Of course, we wrapped up the part one with Tom and or Lala and what's his name, Lala and James, just going in because they felt so triggered by Tom. Anything Tom said, anything Tom did, they were just triggered. So there was a lot of yelling, James running back and forth off the stage. I don't know. It was just a lot going on there. But I would love to know your thoughts about what you thought of part one. I would love to know, what do you think about these situations? Do you think James has a right to feel upset towards Tom, or do you think it's all for show? Do you feel that Lala has a point in that Tom is going to be the next Randall in 10 years? I would love to know your thoughts. So if you could go ahead and share those, and let's have a conversation about it. I just, of course, love to know what you're thinking. And I think that basically does it about for this part one. I will come back and do part two, because that got quite interesting as well. But I want to cover it. But again, a lot of the reunion really did focus a lot on Scandoval. So, a lot of the other things and other storylines that may have been opening up for people just didn't get the same kind of levity as the Scandoval situation did. So it was a lot of trying to pick those situations in there and try to get them to a point where you could at least talk about them a little bit. So there was a lot of conversation, a lot of conversation really about Scandoval, a little bit about the other things. And of course, what was going on in Lala's life was the Randall situation. But I think Lala was here for going after Tom, because that was a way of her being able to exert her energy as well. And with the understanding that a lot of what is going to be talked about is the Scandoval, because that was the big thing. And it did end up, being something that spread across all the friendships because of the betrayals and, people feeling that they're undoubtedly inconspicuously involved in a situation because they didn't know what was happening with this so-called affair and how it's happening under their nose, and everybody felt duped. So there was so much of that involved with the situation as well. They did touch base a little bit on Sheena's wedding, but let's face it, Sheena, she had a beautiful wedding. Don't get me wrong, it was a beautiful, beautiful wedding. I like Sheena, and I think that it was a great wedding. It was a great time and all that wonderful stuff. I'm glad she got what she got in the show for the representation. But this is her second marriage. Okay, hopefully it'll be her final one, but it is her second marriage, and she did get a lot of coverage with the first one. So sometimes things start to dilute themselves when you're doing them repeatedly, right? So she didn't get much of information on that out there, but they did talk a little bit about it. But it all wrapped itself back around to Katie and Tom and the shenanigans of that. So yeah, again, I think that about does it for part one. I hope that you enjoyed. Definitely make sure you leave your thoughts about the reunion. I would sure love to hear what your thoughts are about that, of course, and let's conversate about it. I will be coming back for the part two review for Vanderpump Rules, so I hope that you will have an opportunity to plug in for that as well. If you are new here, make sure that you do subscribe and be part of the family. I do a lot of recaps and reviews of different shows, and now it's been a little bit of a break here and there because there's been a lot going on. But yeah, I've got some things coming down the pipe. And of course, I do a lot of quick take celebrity news videos as well that I enjoy, just going over those trending topics and getting your thoughts and opinions of those things. And I definitely want you to be part of the family because I do appreciate all of you guys that already are. So yeah, if you are, definitely make sure that you hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and yeah, come back for the next live. Yeah, I think I'll be live in the next one I'll do. Part two for Vanderpump Rules. And yeah, I guess with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, of course, but make sure you do come back. I do hope that you add that in your day to come back for the part two. But yes, I really do appreciate you being here. And I guess that'll about do it. And so until next time, be safe, take care, and yeah, we'll see you later. Bye.